House prices must fall. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your hashtag not sponsored cheap coffee, and I want to talk about an article in which, well, obviously a coalition spokesperson is discussing first home buyer housing and how they need to come down, or I would argue they need to be more affordable. Now, you'll see often, time and time again, people compare house prices to one wage, one salary, and then scream blue murder that it's completely unaffordable because back in the day, it was 5.5 or, 4 times an annual salary. Now, it's double that. What they always seem to neglect is that you need to compare a house price to a household salary. Now, you need 2 people working in a house. That's it. That's the reality. If you want to go back to the 70s and 80s, where you could live with a sole breadwinner, a sole income, and traditionally, mum would stay home and raise the kids and make the house, provide that level of stability. That's a challenge these days. It's a luxury now to live like that. It's not attainable to the average person. That, I would argue, throughout most of human history, was a luxury. It was a brief period when the serfs, when us plebeians, could live in such a way that we could afford to keep a stay-at-home mum or to only have one person being the breadwinner. We're now going back to normal, guys. We have to toil all the time. And maybe that's the sad reality of it that people seem to keep missing. But let's have a look here, because there's an interesting suggestion in this article which I haven't heard before. It's to limit politicians to only owning one house. Now, ideologically, I'm opposed to having such arbitrary restrictions, particularly on property ownership. I would say we want people that have the skills to prove their ability to acquire more assets. But then again, that can lead to jealousy, concerns for corruption, all of these other issues. I would suggest perhaps we have an age limit and maybe an IQ test on who can go into sit for Parliament or be a senior public servant. Could you imagine that if we did IQ tests for our pollies? Oh boy. And civil servants, what do you reckon? Let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea. So, not that I probably wouldn't get in there anyway. Too stupid. Coalition housing spokesman says first home buyer house prices should fall. Yeah, okay, that's an easy throwaway line. The federal opposition's housing spokesman, Andrew Bragg, said entry-level house prices need to fall, acknowledging it is a problem his peers do not want to admit. He also, look at this, covered right here by Microsoft, a proposal to restrict politicians to only being able to own one home. So what they'll do is then they'll just put it in a company and they'll get around it. I mean, that's the thing. This is just Andrew wanting to put some sound bites out there so he gets some media attention, and he's saying some pretty basic things. So perhaps this is just for some attention. Could that be what we're seeing here? Getting, addressing some pretty safe topics and issues that everyone will agree with. We want housing to be cheaper. Everyone says it. But, the reality is they may claim that they want housing to be cheaper. They may claim that they want to support Australian manufacturing. But when it comes to opening your own wallets, people make different decisions. How many people would be happy if their housing fell 50% tomorrow to make housing more affordable? And we had massive unemployments and a whole lot of economic issues accompanying it. They wouldn't. They really wouldn't, honestly. They would not. So let's keep going. The Liberal Senator's comments followed new data showing national house prices in October were growing at their fastest rate in more than 2 years. I think it would be better if entry-level prices went down, he told ABC News. Well, to be honest, I like the policy from One Nation to put a pause or a moratorium or a hold on taxes or GST for building materials for new homes under $1 million. I think that's a great idea. I think we need to get that policy idea out there so it's discussed and considered. You need to repeat that. Even if you don't like that party, even if you don't agree with their suggestions, it doesn't mean that their policies are not invaluable. That shouldn't be pushed out. This is the benefit. We're pretty fortunate here in Australia with our political system because minors get a chance to actually get people up there. Even if they're not able to run Parliament, even if they're just there as another voice, another thought bubble up there, another check and balance, that's what we want. Okay, and this is a good idea. I think we need to push it forward. No GST. Maybe we should even go no GST on any first home. What do you reckon, guys? I know politicians have been loath to go here, but the fact is house prices for first home buyers, no, they haven't. They all talk about it, are too high. Yeah. There's no question about that. Okay, mate. We all agree. This is really easy stuff. His position is a shift from the coalition stance last term, and stands in contrast to Housing Minister Claire O'Neil, who said in November the government was not trying to bring down house prices. Well, they're not. He's not saying their government is going to bring down house prices. He thinks they should be cheaper. So, that may be the view of young people, but it's not the view of our government, Miss O'Neil told Triple J Hack at the time. Well, that's why the coalition is losing support. Now, the danger is young people will shift to more leftist and interventionist solutions, where the government takes more control, more liberty, and more taxes from you to try and fix the problem that a large part they've helped create. And, well, historical precedent can show us how that works out all around the world. But we don't want to see some of the growth that we've seen in some parts of the country. Asked whether this was still Miss O'Neil's belief, a spokesperson did not directly address the question. So, in making his argument, he blamed Labor's reckless 5% home deposit scheme for first-home buyers as a reason for the increase. No, okay, that's juiced up the market. But fundamentally, the issue is here. Every year upon year, and I'll come here, every year upon year, housing costs are going up because inflation, okay? And all of the costs associated with construction are going up. We're having more onerous energy requirements. Here in Queensland, they're pushing, 7-star now? You've got accessibility requirements. Now, these all sound good. People vote for them. They like the touchy-feely, nice and friendly sound bites, but that drives up the cost of housing. You've got the overheads and costs associated with building getting more expensive, more onerous. So when someone's going to develop a property, all the charges that they're going to spend, they need to ensure they maximize their return on investment. It may not be worth building a little 2-bed, 1-bathroom with a carport like they would have back in the day. And people would buy that as a nice little starter home and then jump on to the next one. Maybe, here we go, here's the option, that 10% GST cut is only for exceptionally small homes. Starter homes. We need to do the brand of starter homes. Maybe I should design a whole series of modular starter homes that people could buy from different manufacturers and get them prefabricated and just dropped on the site. Then the idea is that you could bolt on pieces of timber to the steel to extend your house. Get a little steel chassis as your heart. Oh, we need another bedroom for Timmy? Bolt it on. We need to extend the deck? Bolt it on. Get your shovel, spade, dig a footing, pour the concrete in. Why not? Why not? So they've created this uncapped, non-means tested 5% deposit scheme, and it's really hurting entry-level first home buyers, so prices have gone up. That's all really they can do at a federal level. Earlier this week, data from research firm Cotality showed home values rose 1.1% in October and 6.1% across the year, citing a mix of government incentives, rate cuts, limited supply, and a typical spring surge. Cotality's head of research, Eliza Owen, said it was a pretty surprising and exceptional month for price growth, largely driven by lower and middle market segments. Labor says the scheme is helping renters buy. Yeah, no, I understand how this is working, and I think on this channel, the regular viewers are aware of the consequences of this. Now, let's have a look at, here we go, probably fair to limit the number of homes politician owns. Now, this is the interesting one. Speaking to Triple J on Tuesday, Mr. Bragg also looked favourably on the concept of restricting politicians to only owning one home as he does. He noted that in public office, individual circumstances could be perceived as a conflict of interest. It's probably a fair rule, he told listeners. ABC has previously analysed the number of homes federal politicians own, with some owning as many as 7. Oh, that's Frankly, that 7 is not that impressive. There's some people that own a lot more. And I only own part of home, as you can see behind me. But I put that question to the viewers of my channel, and let's have a look here. We'll bring this up. I've got the poll here, and we'll just refresh. So of the 514 that have voted, 71% said yes to my question, should politicians be limited to owning one home? And 29% said no. Now, personally, I don't agree with this. I think we should measure other aspects of politicians, maybe work experience. Maybe people who have never had a real job should not be allowed to run for parliament. So people that, and by real job, I mean in the private sector, not working as a civil servant their whole life, not working for large union organizations, an actual job. Maybe just business owners. So let's keep going. We've got some few comments here. Yes, and the union leaders. Yeah, there you go. Private property and asset portfolios as a public servant would translate into a conflict of interest from my understanding. I don't know if it would that much, honestly. I mean, are you really... Maybe that's my problem. I'm not seeing it right. I'm too naive. I'm thinking, who would influence the state of the entire country to affect the value of a few of your houses you own? But then again, I mean, there are a lot of cases of greedy and corrupt politicians. And my naivete doesn't really default to that way of thinking. Sorry, I would like to be on side. And as a councillor with only one house, it wouldn't affect me now. However, a holiday house, a couple of investment properties isn't outside the norm for a person on the street. It should be okay for a politician. Maybe a cap on the property investment on the basis of land developers are not meant to be in politics. But then nor are lawyers, and think that should include it as you stop practicing. Well, yeah, maybe no lawyers should be in politics. What is this communism? It's coming from Triple J hack, mate. That's the reason. Absolutely 100% to stop their conflict of interest. I think it's a populist argument, but it's going to get messy. Everyone, not just politicians. So here we go. One primary residence, one investment property. Beyond that, number 6-year rule or rent vest until you work overseas or interstate. No exceptions. It's all rotting. Oh, boy. I mean, here's the thing. We're getting so many leftist communist ideas. Yes, it's a conflict of interest. Socialist politicians should build a house before they can serve. The house should be held until their term finishes. If the government has a deficit, it is repossessed and sold to cover the debt. I like that one. Good one, Luke. Yeah, yep. I agree with no, not even one. What a stupid question, lol. I can see how it may enrage the normies. What individuals do with their money is no business at all. Yeah, I agree with you, Herbert. Yeah, I mean, this is Triple J. This is the thing. Okay, all of us, the majority of the viewers of this channel are male, 80%, and you're getting on the older side, 30 plus guys, okay? You're moving up in those tick boxes here. You got me, I'm middle-aged. You know, I'm a geriatric millennial. So we see things like this. So it shouldn't be the government's issue. It shouldn't be the government's problem. But the younger generation, particularly the younger white men who have been disenfranchised, that whole generation that was schooled and educated in the woke age, their education was very different to what those of us who are just a little bit older have encountered. We see stuff online and these policies and we think, oh, they're just stupid, they're crazy. But they've been laden with all this guilt and blame for all of these wrongs in society and been told to take a step back and acquiesce to the demands of other groups, that the danger is they are so frustrated that they will consider anything. They will consider things that we would dismiss as radical, stupid, dangerous as well. They're telling me I'm guilty for all of this. I've been screwed. I've got no opportunities. Well, come on, let's have a look at what does Mussolini have to say. What are these suggestions here? Why not? I've got nothing to lose. So that is a concern. You can see that in the shift in that demographic. We've got to steer them to sensibility, but we'll have to see. Ridiculous idea. The cause of housing crisis isn't landlords yet. No, I agree. Depends who pays for the houses concerned. No, I don't think they should be limited, but their finances should be transparent. I mean, no politician should be rich with the amount of money they earn, but they all seem to be. It is by chance. They're all brilliant businessmen and women and exceptionally invest. I think not. Well, no, what was that Jackie Lamb from Tasmania? She was nearly broke after it. It depends on the politician. And yeah, it's all published already. You can see it. But just people they don't have the time. We're all too busy. Let's convert Parliament House into a data center and install an AI government that can only decide outcomes that better all the citizens as a collective. As long as it doesn't turn sentient, it should be an upgrade on the current meat suits in charge. The problem is, with a lot of these language algorithms, aren't they all incredibly based because they're just based on just information that's provided? So if you train one up on the information that's out there, on real statistics and real data, the majority of normies will not like the results that they're going to get, so they need to instill buffers and limitations on the responses that it can give. So the only place that rewards failure, I think investing on the stock exchange is more damaging, to be honest. Politicians shouldn't be getting paid to be politicians. Government shouldn't be doing much at all. Okay, so here we go. We've got the argument with the very minimalist politicians, minimalist government. Should we do the philosopher kings? So term limits would be more effective and fair. How about blockchain voting, fully transparent, democratic, and integral? I mean, there are people that are pushing that. There are parties that are pushing for universal democracy where people vote on everything. I don't know if I trust the people with that. I'd rather filter those that are chosen to represent us. No, but we should get rid of incentives that have led to owning investment properties, such as too high taxes, being able to negative gear housing to your income tax. How about term limits? They can't own. They've to live in government housing. If they were paid like every other public servant, they'd afford one. No, honestly, most public servants are paid more than politicians. A lot of them paid a fair bit. 2, maybe. They should have an oxygen quota, for example. After becoming a politician, they're allowed maybe 2 or 3 breaths. I feel anything more than 3 is a theft of oxygen. Adam's, each breath would cost you billions. Adam here is a bit pissed off. Understandably so. Shelter should not be investment. The system is fundamentally inhumane. Well, life is inhumane. Life. What do you mean? Living is a challenge and a struggle. We've just had it so good for so long and so easy compared to previous generations of people that people... I look at America. Look at the food stamps. I did the sums. The people there, Bering did a video on it now, where they're just stealing food because they're not getting their food stamps. Now, if I were in America, I could, with my family, because I've got 8 kids, or 7 kids with one on the way, if I had 8 kids in America, and what would I have to cap out? About 10 grand US a month I could earn and still get thousands, like $4,000 or some insane amount of money a month in just food stamps. So it's not like these people aren't, they're still getting them when they're earning money. It's insane that there's this expectation that someone else should feed you that isn't your parent. I mean, there's generosity, there's reaching out to the poor, there's food kitchens, but this is on another level. This is people buying their weekly groceries. It's not an emergency. So it's I would argue that we're living in a challenging world. The problem is you've got cultural clashes, particularly in a multicultural society here, like Australia. You've got the Northern European culture, the people that have evolved there due to the environment, the climate, and the culture. They've got a different way of thinking to other people around the world. And then when these come together, we need to ensure we've got robust public discourse so the cultures can merge, not isolated clusters that barely interact. That's the danger. So that could be why, given my ancestry, the idea of individual caring for yourself and your own food is probably a little different to others. Here we go. I went off topic. No, instead ban politicians from voting on property issues. If they have more than 1 or 2 investment properties, you want the best people becoming politicians and not just ones that meet a certain criteria. Yeah, but then what could they vote on? Everything is a property issue. Everything is tied back to housing here in Australia. Of course, they should only own 1 house. They're mostly corrupt, so why egg them on? That would really put them under the pump. So there we go. We've got a few topics. So let's have a bit of a chat about this, guy. So I think what we have here is a politician taking some easy swings to an audience that is incredibly left-leaning. The hack on Triple J, on ABC. He's speaking to the young people what he thinks they want to hear. I don't think you should limit housing politicians to owning one house. I think we should ensure that there are other criteria that are required to meet for people to become politicians. You want someone who's a citizen of the country. You want someone who's held a real job. You want someone who meets minimum levels of education and competence and actually understands our political system, finance and statistics. Maybe just some basics. Capping their housing won't make a difference. And housing going up, blaming it all on Albo. Okay, I understand what's happening. I see why they're playing the political game, but we all knew this was going to happen. I'm not even surprised anymore. Anyway, guys, like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.